If you compare beer with bratwurst,
and cheese with wine,
or even whiskey
with donuts,
then we think you can pair all of these delicious drinks with
murder,
conspiracies,
missing persons,
and more.
Drink with us as you feed your craving for true crime and creepy stories.
Hello, my name is Jason, and this is my wife, Katie, and you are listening to Perfectly Paired With. We are a podcast that talks about true crime stuff and drinks while doing it. It's awesome. You'll love it. Well, Catherine, my love, do you want to give us a little bit about what we're going to be discussing?
So, in order to be considered a serial killer, an individual needs to murder 3 people at 3 different times. So, with the discovery of 12 bodies across 3 states in the New England area, fears that a serial killer is on the hunt are growing. Most criminologists and law enforcement officials in that area are dismissing that notion as unlikely and unsupported by the available evidence. But on the other side of that skepticism is an army of social media sleuths who seem to be perpetuating the rumor, or perhaps even hope, that New England is home to a serial killer.
Awesome. What year is this?
Current.
Oh, current. All right.
As of April and May of this year.
Excellent. Well, usually we do, I guess, a little bit longer type of podcast, and you give me an idea of what we're going to be talking about, and you told me nothing about this except that it's going to be a shorter one.
Yes.
Which we're kind of testing the waters on that, doing some short ones here and there. We may even do like really short ones.
Yeah.
A group of short stories. And so this is the first of kind of those.
There's not a lot
outside of what we usually do.
Yeah, so there's not a lot to go on in terms of this information because it is so new and so current, and that's what's going to make it pretty short.
Okay, excellent. Well, with that, since I didn't really know anything, I just...
and you met a vendor, at the liquor store.
Just happened to be at the liquor store, and they were doing taste testing. And what they had for what they had to test was this rum, and it's a local rum. So
local to Colorado.
Honestly, we've both tried it, and it is really good. I talked to the guy that I believe he's the creator of the company. He wanted to create a rum because he is a whiskey fanatic, a bourbon fanatic. He wanted to create a rum that you could drink like whiskey as well, over a rock or just by itself and sip on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he nailed it.
What's it called?
It is called Oacis, and it's spelled Oacis.
Okay.
For those watching on Spotify, there it is. Oh, there it is.
We should have had our older daughter say the bottom part.
Yeah.
It's brulee sugar.
Yep, it's rum.
And we were at a restaurant yesterday, and she
could not figure out
how to say that.
She called it brulee. Rum, brulee sugar. And its notes that it says it has, and I actually agree a lot with this, is toffee, vanilla, and toasted oak. So cheers.
Cheers. I wish I drank rum more. I just don't have a lot of practice, so I don't know what to compare it to. So
it definitely tastes like rum.
Yeah.
But it's got definitely a smoky flavor to it.
It does have a smoky flavor. That's kind of crazy.
And especially the aftertaste, you get a lot of smoke on there. But I think a lot of rums kind of have that toffee vanilla sort of, definitely vanilla taste in there or notes in there. And I think that's a perfect description of it is toffee vanilla.
You definitely can drink it by itself, which I wouldn't do with a a Sailor Jerry's or whatever. So I give it 2 thumbs up. Good job.
Yeah, I do too. They are local here. They're out of Loveland. Yep, Loveland. So if you're in Colorado, keep your eye out for this. I think they're getting the rum out in a lot of major stores. And if you aren't and you want to try it, go to their website. I am sure you could order it. It's Oacis, Oasis, and I believe
Oacis.
Oh, my bad. Oacis.
Well,
.co.
we're
That's
not known
their
for
website.
our spelling, so it's okay. First thing I'm going to say is this episode is actually dedicated to a colleague of mine, Crystal, aka Crazy Bear Peeps. She recommended us doing this.
Excuse me, Crazy Bear Peeps.
We're colleagues
Oh.
in the vein of we have nicknames for each other.
Oh.
And second,
do you have nicknames for everybody that you're friends with?
Absolutely, I do. Trying a different drink, stepping outside of our comfort zone with Oasis rum is perfectly paired with telling you all a story that has very little information, which is outside of my comfort zone in terms of writing scripts. So this whole thing started when bodies began being discovered across 3 states: Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And it wasn't just that bodies in this geographic region were being found. It was that they were being found in such a short period of time, roughly 2.5 months. So I am not saying I am team there is a serial killer on the loose, or team these are all unrelated, you guys are being ridiculous. I just thought it would be interesting to look at what remains have been found, and then you and I can briefly discuss possible theories or explanations. So the first body was discovered on March 6th in Norwalk, Connecticut. Paige Fannin was 35 years old, and her body was discovered while searchers were actually looking for a different missing person.
Is this 2025?
Yes. Fannin's remains were pulled from a quick-moving river. Some of her clothing and personal items were located on the bank of the river. But there isn't much else in terms of information. I was not able to find any details about a determination as to the cause or manner of death, but police are investigating her death. On the same day, in Plymouth, Massachusetts, a hunter discovered human remains in a wooded area. Now, no specific details about the age or gender of this victim have been released. And when I use the term remains, it's a bit loose because it was just like a part of a skull that was discovered.
Oh, okay.
And Plymouth is about 187 miles east of Norwalk, which is where the other remains were discovered.
The first remains, you said there's very little info, but any like guessing on when the person died that they've released? Because according to like what's left.
So I have to tell you, piecing this together was actually really, really difficult because it's so new. It's just superficial news articles.
Yeah.
And I think investigators are probably pretty tight-lipped, at least in the first part of these types of investigations. So
Did you
nothing.
check like Reddit forums or anything? Like, are there any sleuths out there?
I will tell you if you are into this, there is a Facebook group. It's private, so I'm sure you have to request and then answer questions that I'm sure goes into tons and tons and tons of theories and speculation. But my sense on like an outside looking in is that this group, I'm not trying to piss you guys off if you want to listen to our episode, is causing a bit of an issue because they're making connections and providing information that might not actually be there.
Okay.
So I didn't try to join.
Yeah.
So then on March 19th, 80 miles west of Norwalk and 108 miles west of Plymouth in Groton, Connecticut, the remains of a 60-year-old female were discovered in a suitcase. These remains, which I believe were just her torso, were eventually identified as Suzanne Wormser.
Hmm.
Now, immediately once that body was found, it was tied to the other two sets of remains, and the whole sort of serial killer fear began to grow and spread.
But it wasn't tied by law enforcement.
No, none of these are tied by law enforcement.
But they're very close to
in geographic region.
Well, and timing of being.
Yes, but her roommate, a man named Donald Koffel, was arrested for her murder eventually. Koffel reported to police that he hit Suzanne in the head with a baseball bat and kept her body in the apartment for over a week, the apartment that they shared, at which point he dismembered her corpse and discarded it in 2 trash bags, all except the torso, which he put in a suitcase, and then that suitcase was wheeled close to a cemetery, which is where it was discovered. And there was some DNA evidence to confirm it, but he actually died while in jail prior to the trial. He was being held on $1 million bail, and so technically he was never convicted.
How'd he die?
I don't know. They didn't say. His mugshot didn't depict a man who was in top health. So
Gotcha.
maybe jail was just too much. Or what is it? Jail justice? Prison justice?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me talking.
Okay.
Then in New Haven, Connecticut, the remains of 59-year-old Denise Leary were discovered on March 20th in a wooded area. Denise had gone missing the September before, so that's a significant amount of time. When the remains were discovered, they were in an advanced state of decomposition. Denise is said to have suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and that always seems to be presented as a possible explanation for what happened to her. Denise's cause of death remains undetermined, but there were no signs of foul play discovered during the autopsy. New Haven is 50 miles west of Groton and 156 miles west of Plymouth. So, again, remains discovered, small geographic region, small time period, and they're all being lumped as possible victims. But during her autopsy, there were no signs that death was caused by another individual.
Okay. Yeah.
Then on April 9th, unidentified remains were found in Killingly, Connecticut. These remains are male and were skeletal at the time of their discovery. Killingly is less than 10 miles from Foster, Rhode Island. We have to go back. I skipped. Now, moving 89 miles northeast of New Haven in Foster, Rhode Island, the remains of 56-year-old Michelle Romano were discovered on March 26th, 8 months after her initial disappearance. Police have stated they believe that Romano's death was suspicious in nature. However, they are still not sure how she died. On April 9th, unidentified remains were found in Killingly, Connecticut. These remains are male and were skeletal at the time of their discovery. Killingly is less than 10 miles from Foster, Rhode Island. Details regarding the remains have been entered into a database in order to identify either similar cases or missing persons, and officials have stated that they do not believe it is related to any other case at this time. So although found in the same region during the same time period, investigators say it's probably not related to any of the other remains that were found. On April 10th, unidentified remains were discovered by firefighters responding to a brush fire in Framingham, Massachusetts. It is believed that the remains were most likely there for months before their discovery, and that any information gathered at the scene does not indicate any foul play. Framingham is the most northern point of any of these remains being discovered, and it is about 53 miles northeast of Killingly.
Jeez.
On April 20th, remains were discovered in the Seekonk River in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Pawtucket is about 40 miles south of Framingham. These remains have not been identified, and the manner and cause of death have also not been established. And to be honest, that's all the information I could discover about the discovery of those remains.
It's just like, oh, keep going. It's so strange.
On April 22nd, police responded to the call of an unresponsive woman near the riverfront bike path in Springfield, Massachusetts. This woman eventually died at the hospital and would ultimately be identified as 45-year-old Megan Meredith. Her death is being investigated as a homicide. So at least we have a manner of death in her case. Homicide. On April 25th, male remains were discovered in the Mill River in Taunton, Massachusetts. The remains were identified as 51-year-old Samuel Stovall. Stovall was known to police as a homeless man living in the area, and although his death hasn't been named suspicious by investigators, his death remains an open investigation. On April 30th, the remains of 72-year-old Mary Colasanto were pulled from a river in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. Mary had been missing since March. On the day Mary went missing, she parked her car at the Glastonbury River Boathouse at Riverfront Park at 12:30 a.m. Colasanto was last seen walking toward the Connecticut River. And despite her car being discovered later on that morning, the morning she was reported missing, she was not found for like 30 days. And there haven't been any determinations as to her cause of death. And that's all about I could find in terms of Mary Colasanto.
Wow. You should take a drink. You've been given all this information and no wetting your whistle.
Then, on May 14th, human remains. This is our last of the 13 possible victims. On May 14th, human remains were located in Westerly, Rhode Island. Specifically, they were discovered in the Watch Hill neighborhood. The remains, which consisted of a male leg, were actually found not far from Taylor Swift's beachfront mansion, leaving some of these online investigators, these online sleuths, to wonder if T. Swift herself could be the new New England serial killer.
Yeah, I saw a headline on human remains being found. I think the headline even said on her property, but then you looked into it and it was like,
well,
near her property.
She loves true crime. And if you were a serial killer, what is the least likely place for you to discard of your own victim's remains? Your beachfront mansion. And she actually has a song where she confesses. I don't listen to Taylor Swift, but the lyrics go, they think she did it, but they just can't prove it. They think she did it, but they just can't prove it. She thinks I did it, but she just can't prove it. No body, no crime. But then a leg is found. So
you forgot part of the body.
Just fell out of her bag.
I thought the bag got lighter as I was going towards my destination.
So those are the 13 sets of remains that have been discovered that is causing at least an online community to go into a tizzy about a possible serial killer. So what are your thoughts?
Well, it's... First, I would say this is if there's a serial killer and let's just say half of these bodies are to them or most of them, I think there's some in there that clearly aren't.
Yes.
Like what horrible fucking luck
that they all get discovered in this window of time.
Every week he's just like, damn it, they found another one. What? Like they found all of them in all this little period of time. Like what am I supposed to do? I think that's a very unlikely scenario to happen to find it. Let's just say 10 to 13, or let's even say 6 to 13 bodies from the same serial killer all at once. That's unless it was like all in one grave
site.
or area.
Dumping site.
Yeah, dumping site. Like they find one, like, well, we should check the rest of this place, and then they find 6 others, not hundreds of miles from each other, 50 miles here, 100 miles there. But it is really weird. I fully understand why there's people jumping on this boat, especially if you live in the area. Like because the miles you're giving, it kind of like what I'm seeing in the map in my head. It's sort of like an area like Colorado.
Because there is a map that places all of these
I want to see that.
locations.
But as far as like the area goes, it's like a state, like one state sort of sized area.
Potentially. Like we have states that would encompass all of this.
Right. Like I think Colorado is one that would probably encompass all of that. Just judging on your mileage, like 100 miles here, if it's there. And, if that happened in Colorado and it was like everywhere from corner to corner, we'd all be like, what is going on?
Right.
But even then, that's a legit question. Why all of a sudden are they just finding bodies left and right?
That I don't have an answer for, and I've contemplated, weird. But this is what I would say.
Could you imagine every, like 2 times a week, 3 times a week,
just another set of remains being found?
Morning news says, body found here, not sure who it is. Body found here, not sure who it is.
Yeah. So here's why I don't think they're all connected to the same killer. Like most criminologists would present that serial killers target a specific victim type. It's either based on age, race, maybe even gender. And these kind of run the gambit, not necessarily in terms of age. They all feel older in terms of victims, but you definitely have different races and you have different genders. So to try to say they're all tied to one, and the differing states of decomp, I mean, some could have been dead for nobody even knows how long.
Without that information, there's no way to, like, I don't know, even have a Facebook group where you're getting anywhere with anything unless the police are saying something.
And do you know what I blame for people going online to try to solve things? Don't F with Cats on Netflix, because that was one actual instance where people literally solved this horrendous series of crimes by a douchebag, and they did it. They went online, they looked at things in videos, but that's what's missing in this. They're working with zero to little information, and they're connecting dots because I think they want to do that.
Yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong. Like, fill your time with whatever you want. I mean, I'm sure if you get enjoyment out of it and trying to figure it out, that's fine. I don't think this is really going to go anywhere, but there is something weird where it's like, I don't blame them. Like, how the hell? Yeah. I don't think I've heard anything like this where like 13 bodies pop up in what, like 2 months?
2.5-ish months.
That's insane.
Now,
and it sounds like some of them, like the skull fragment, like that's just a remain that's
probably had been
old, you know. But even so, like
it's unsettling.
But it's still within this little time frame.
Now
it's almost like God is saying, you know what, enough with you, New England area. Like maybe there really is this many like people being killed and stuff that they just have so many missing that this was inevitable to happen at some point.
I wish I had like my statistics skills so I could like run the numbers to see the likelihood or whatever. But I will tell you this.
I'll say this too. I think what makes it most strange too is that they're all not connected. Like they're all accidental finds. That's what is really weird. It's not like the first 2 or 3 started every police department and FBI agencies around there to start combing every single area. It's like fireman found this body here. A hunter found one here. one washed up on shore on the river. It is all happenstance finding of remains.
Now, I will tell you that as I wrote this, each set of remains got a paragraph. And at the end of 5 of these paragraphs, in capital letters, I wrote one word that I found was a trend that stuck out to me. Because there are clear ones that I would just discard, like the torso found in the suitcase. Confident it was her roommate. The half of a skull found in the woods.
Who knows?
Who knows? But there were 5 different sets of remains pulled from the water. And the one that, well, there were 2 that piqued my interest the most. The first one was the woman who parked her car at 12:30 a.m. at that like boat parking, whatever. And then she was missing for a month before her remains were discovered in the water. So why did she go to the river? Where was she during that month period of time? I don't think her body was just stuck in the water for 30 days. And the second one was the victim that was alive, found on the bank of the river, taken to a hospital and later died at the hospital. And that was one of the clear bodies that was designated as a homicide. So what could they tell on her person, because she was still alive, still new, that made investigators go, this is a victim of a homicide? Because that's not released. And
Plus, that had to have
just very interesting to me.
And then
what
timing
told them that she was the victim of a
timing
homicide?
of deaths also tell you those ones are within a certain amount of time along a river. And because the lady goes missing 30 days later, her body's found. So within that 30 days, she died.
Yeah.
Was thrown into a river.
Something happened to this woman laying on the side of a river. Somebody happens to see her unresponsive body, calls for emergency responders.
Did you see anything as far as info goes with that like her body was wet?
Nothing. But that just gets my like.
So that to me makes me think
true crime. Like, could this be
your TC
a mode
your TC
of killing as opposed to choosing victims based on age, race, or gender, but allowing water to do the actual killing for you? And it was just this guy's bad luck that somebody spotted this woman's body prior to the river sweeping her away or whatever.
Or
because something told them.
Or he was in the process of killing her.
And he got scared away.
Or thought he killed her, but then something spooked him before he could dump the body, and so he just left.
So that's the only thing.
Or she just left.
That piqued my interest is this common
thread
thread of water.
There's 3 others.
No, there's a total of
water.
13 bodies.
No, I know. With the water.
Yes, yeah. There was a male victim who was pulled from the water in Taunton, Massachusetts. Our first victim was found in the water, and she actually had like articles of clothing and belongings left on the side of the river, almost like she maybe had been lying there at one point.
And which would also maybe tell you that that's a fresher body if her clothes are still there.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So,
if there is a serial killer, I think it has something to do with water. And I would want to follow up with more details of those bodies, but otherwise I don't think.
Yeah. I always think whenever somebody says, and no offense to you for saying it, this is just my opinion, because everybody says it, is, oh no, serial killers, they always have like a type. They have to, it'll be whether it's the color of hair, age of woman, and there's a lot of them that do. That doesn't mean they have to.
Which, if you were trying to just kill to
there
kill,
are serial killers
you would
that
want
just
not
kill
to connect
to kill.
Victims.
They get a rush from killing. They're psychopaths, and they don't need a type. They just need a victim. I'm sure that has happened. And maybe this is a case where it is. The river killer.
Well, interesting you say that, because whilst I was looking into these, there was a New England serial killer called the Connecticut River Killer. And so that will be the story I tell you next.
Was he caught?
Yes.
He's not out on the loose again?
No. Nope, he is donezo. It was several decades ago.
Look,
But New England isn't foreign to serial killers. There's actually a few that hunted in that area. I just don't think that these victims are the result of one.
I think it's incredibly strange, again, that so many pop up in such a short little time. So many dead bodies, remains, pop up in such a short little time. It definitely makes somebody question. And I guarantee you the police departments around the areas are questioning. But really, like, none of them are connected enough. It's like they probably aren't doing anything. Like, what can they do about it?
Do you know what I find more terrifying than one serial killer is 13 unrelated individuals who are willing to kill. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like, I feel like
Well, not all of them are murders. Like,
well, we don't know. Just because police have determined, but let's just say, let's say all 13 are victims of killers. Yeah. I would prefer it to be one serial killer as opposed to 13 regular people to kill.
It's so funny you say that, because I literally
roommate who killed his roommate with a bat and dismembered her body. No, I would rather a Ted Bundy living in the world, than a next door neighbor who
could just kill
with a bat.
For no reason.
Or because they don't like your July 4th decorations.
Or think about this. There's, 13 different, like, real actual serial killers. Like, or 12, because the roommate obviously will take that one off the list. What if there was, 13, 10, maybe 8 of those are actual serial killers that you only just found one of their bodies.
Okay, so I constantly throughout my day think of things I could do with my life if I had the energy and the time. One would be to do a study on the death of the serial killer, because I think with technology and everybody having a Ring camera and CCTV footage and like DNA analysis and advancements in technology, you won't have serial killers. But the ones you do have, now those mother effers you should be terrified of.
Yeah, they're scary because they know how to go about and
to get away with it. Like,
once you've learned to not get caught in today's society, that's the ultimate predator at that point. I mean, it's kind of funny when you think about it, like,
on dry land.
In most things in life, like, we've become pussified so much, compared to not even that long ago, without technology, having to survive off the lands.
Yeah.
Even 150 years ago here in America, surviving off the land, having to farm, like, having to trade goods, like, even those guys are harder than we are today. Things are peachy. We're living it easy. So everything's gotten harder except when it comes to serial killing. And those men and women have gotten
you mean best everything's gotten easier, but
yeah. But in that case,
if you're going to survive as a serial killer, you have to be at the top of your game.
Yeah.
Because everything is working against you.
It's a weird thing. I mean, do you know if there are any active for sure serial killers right now in America?
Do I know? Do I have firsthand knowledge? No.
Well,
no, there's some suspicious activity down in Texas.
Yeah.
Which we could do another short on.
Even that, the police dismiss.
To be very,
like one that
very-
maybe police have said, like, yeah, we're pretty sure this guy,
No.
it's the same person who was killed multiple times.
I'm not aware of any.
It's crazy.
I'm not.
So either there is none, which is hard to believe. With 360 million
people in the United States.
Hard to believe that many people, 0 people killing. And even though we do have technology everywhere, or high technology in most places, it isn't everywhere.
Right. And so, like, serial killers in the 60s, 70s, 80s tended to target vulnerable populations, like women in sex work, and which just takes you to a whole nother level when you realize that there's probably an underground exchange of human beings. So we would never know. Like,
True.
if somebody wanted to kill multiple people and they had the means to make it happen in terms of finances, it could just be an evolvement of how you go about killing people.
Yeah.
But I would just say that I don't think there's one in New England.
No.
Unless it's tied to these bodies found in rivers, and only time will tell. And it could be decades,
Yeah.
So
it's a fun thought experiment with these bodies. I do think I'll say possible for the river ones. I think it's too much of a coincidence, though. The river ones also, because at least 3 of them that we discussed, you could say were fairly, like, the bodies were found fairly close in time to when they were killed.
Yeah.
Or dead, made unalive, whether it was themselves making it or somebody else.
Yeah.
The other ones, I don't know. I think the craziest thing about it is just why all of a sudden, and this 100-mile radius is there.
250 miles.
250-mile radius
which
is there.
Isn't that much?
No.
Yeah.
It's a Midwest state. And, like, why is there so many bodies popping up in such a short little time? When was the last body found that you?
Mid-May.
So we're still. We could have.
They can just
we could have
keep
another
finding
couple
bodies. Who knows?
We should. They're just gonna start being betting sites, like adding, like, will there be a body found in New England area?
I don't know. I find it disconcerting that legs can be found on beaches. I find it disconcerting that firemen can go to a brush fire and there's just a body that has been there for an extensive amount of time.
I always wonder if I'd stumble upon one.
I got nothing.
I think looking out our window and seeing a lady hanging from a tree was probably our quota for dead bodies seen by us, I'm sure.
Correct.
Which is a true story. We did. Unfortunately. She committed suicide just outside our apartment.
Indeed.
So, anyway,
I would say I'm digging that this is shorter. I'm digging that there's no answer. There's not a beginning and an end. There's just a beginning.
Yeah. And if you listen to this and you don't dig it,
check out one of our other episodes. We have a really great series that includes Charles Manson and the CIA.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And just the CIA stuff in general.
And I do one heck of an outro, but I didn't write an outro for this one because this story is not quite done.
You can't outro a
so we will leave it open.
All right. Well, we are perfectly paired with, and we are signing off. Thanks for listening. Peace.